Hey, 3D Basics class, it's week 14. Today, the title is like Character Animation Part 2, but this is more of a kind of philosophical discussion about character animating. I know, boring, right? So feel free to put me on 2x speed or something, or skip ahead. I will talk you through like some examples in Blender. We'll actually animate a few things, but I want to just like talk about animation, 3D animation, kind of from a broad sense. Just maybe kind of motivate you a little bit if you're interested in that and you're finding this assignment 6 to be difficult. And we'll kind of talk about just like, well, I want to look at a job posting for Disney Animation Studio, and we'll kind of talk about what it takes to be an animator, a 3D animator. So this one might be a little bit shorter, or I may ramble a little bit, but I do think I want to show you kind of a little bit more of my personal process with the Chester rig. Maybe I'll have them like do a backflip or something like that near the end. So look at the chapters, see it. You're seeing into my future a little bit, whether or not I actually get to it or not. Okay, so animating, 3D animation. So it's when you boil it down, especially character animation. I'm talking mostly about character animation here. When you boil down what you need to know to animate a character, it's rigging and creating armatures. It's adding keyframes. Like those are the technical skills. You're adding keyframes to different parts of the body. And like the rest is just like up for grabs. It's sort of like the world is your oyster. Now you can look at a thing and say like this is a good animation or this is bad animation. But it's all subjective. And I think a trend that's happened recently is that we've kind of come back from the like super photorealisticness of it, and it's more about kind of the and this is like a buzzword that sometimes it makes me cringe when I say it, but it's more about the storytelling of it, or the story of the animation. An example. And I just like heard about this today. And well, I'd kind of heard about it. This was maybe several months or maybe even a year ago. But now that AI has become so available and accessible, somebody had created a AI-generated 3D animation parodying the sitcom Seinfeld. And it was like running 24 hours a day. And it was just like AI generated dialogue and animation. And actually, maybe I'll find a clip here in a second. It did, and I should say it did get pulled down because it ended up like saying some extremely hateful and insensitive things. And so like it was like, whoa, like AI out of control. So they had to like reprogram it and change it. And like I never actually I heard about it when this happened months ago that it was saying these awful things, but I never actually watched it. And then I was watching a video just today, and they'd brought it up, and I was like, I should check this out. And it's like ridiculous. Hold on, I just need to pause and pull it up. Okay, so this is live on Twitch right now as I'm recording this, and there's 177 people watching. There it is. There's the number. But it's like AI generated, and I'll unmute for a second.
But if they did, I'd suggest an exotic pet like an iguana or something.
So, and like it puts in laugh tracks and stuff too, like in awkward places, and the characters are these like really like lo-fi, like hyper pixelated 3D characters. And like the animations are like so technically bad. Like when he like sits down, like he does this on the couch, and they like walk through walls and furniture and stuff, and they sit with their arms out like this. But like this like took the internet by storm, and it's like, and so it's like very compelling media. Yeah, like look at that. Um, but it's like it's not about how good or bad. Well, maybe it is about how bad it is. Maybe it's like it's memed, like it's come full circle that it's so bad. But it's like, it's about kind of how this was created. Like that's the interesting and exciting part about it, because like also like the jokes are terrible, but like it's just, I don't, like there's something about it, and so I think this like leading edge of media and entertainment is fascinating to me. But anyway, the moral of that story is like, whoever like programmed these animations and to allow it to be accessible for an AI to generate animations for it, like they just kind of slapped it together to be like easy and fast. And like even months and years after this like first is a thing, there's like 200 people just like streaming it live right now. Anyway, I just thought that was so funny. Okay, so that brings me to my sort of main point here. Let's see. Let me pull up this. This is a job posting. Where'd I go? Oops. Don't access my location, Disney. Oh, where'd it go? Here we go. This is a job posting at Disney as an animator in Vancouver. So, this could be. So this is like someone who wants to work for Disney. And maybe after I watch, or after we talk about this, I'll talk about working for a company like Disney. Anyway, so, tell the story through vivid and compelling character acting and movement. Create quality animation using digital tools for feature films and other related projects. So this is like, you're in it. Here's the requirements to work at Disney. A reel that is no more than 2 minutes in length of character animation that illustrates visual storytelling, believable expressions, emotional states, weight, physics, balance, appeal, entertainment, clear timing, and staging. Ideally, at least 2 years of production experience, proficiency in Maya, software preferred but not required. Good. Background in traditional hand-drawn computer or stop motion animation. And then finally here, a bachelor's degree or equivalent experience. So typically in job postings, they're listing the requirements from like most important to least important. That's not to say they're not requirements at the bottom here, but like look at the number one thing that they're looking for is a good reel that showcases these things: storytelling, believable expressions. Notice how it doesn't say like realistic expressions, it says believable expressions. Emotional states, weight, physics, balance, appeal, entertainment, timing. So like if you think about these things, like none of these things mean like hyper realism with the fanciest tools. It's just like, can you get a 3D character to show emotion, to show a believable expression? Production, ideally 2 years production experience, but like you can get production experience making low budget TV commercials like I did. Proficiency in Maya or equivalent software. Blender is equivalent to Maya. So don't get scared when you see Maya. And actually, I think next week I'm gonna talk. Or no, it's actually in 2 weeks. Your lecture in 2 weeks. I'm gonna talk about other software, and we'll look at some plugins and stuff too. Background in computer animation. You're getting your background right now. Bachelor's degree or equivalent experience. Whoops, sorry, peaked. So again, like as someone who is likely getting a associate's degree at Hennepin Tech, you should not fear the bachelor degree requirement. The number one thing is your reel. And actually, I'm getting ahead of myself with my lectures too. My very last lecture of this semester is sort of my career advice thing. But anyway, so here, I mentioned earlier, talking about how there's kind of been an evolution in computer animation. And originally, what people were wanting is like more and more realistic stuff. So it started with, well, it didn't start with, but like Toy Story was like a very groundbreaking movie for its time. 3D, all 3D characters, stuff like that. But if you think in your mind about Toy Story, the original, and it's like, the characters, Buzz, and Woody, the story, Andy, Sid, the dog, the aliens, like you remember the characters, and you probably remember it fondly. I was a kid when that came out. You probably haven't seen that movie in many years. And if you go back and actually look at the animation now, almost 30 years later, you would go, oh my gosh, like it actually like kind of doesn't hold up to today's standards, graphically, but also like, some of the animation is choppy. Like, some of the characters are kind of like, especially the humans. And that was really intentional at the time. When they made Toy Story, the original Toy Story, it's like, well, what can we animate in 3D that's actually not too hard to animate? And like, there's a lot of grace. Like, okay, well, what does a cowboy toy look like when it's moving? That's not an animation, or that's not something that people can easily identify or come up with in their head, because it's not something that happens. There's not toy Woodies walking around. So it's like, oh, well, if we just kind of make it floppy like this, and walk around, like, it'll work. Or like a piggy bank, like it doesn't just like burp, 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 burp. So anyway, if you go back and watch Toy Story, you kind of see that it's come a long way since then. Okay, so fast forward like 10 years. The movie The Polar Express comes out. Wow, Tom Hanks coming up a lot. I don't know if any of you are movie buffs. Polar Express facial expressions. I'm doing an internet search. Yeah, so they did do here. Sorry, they were starting to do motion capture. So you can see like Tom Hanks here, with all the dots on his face, and they're like trying to do some facial capture, but like this movie, and I don't know if any of you've seen it. My son is obsessed with trains, and so like we actually watched this several times around the holiday season. But anyway, this the Polar Express is kind of notorious for having like weird, uncomfortable, kind of eerie characters. And like it's kind of tough to pinpoint exactly what it is, but like as you're watching it, you're sort of like, yeah, like what is it? It's those of you that have watched the show 30 Rock, they talk about this. It's called the Uncanny Valley. Let's see. Uncanny Valley. No, that's not what I want here. Pause. Okay, so here's a graphic here. Here's the Uncanny Valley. So this is a chart between human likeness from left to right on the x-axis. On the y-axis, we have emotional response and familiarity. So like what kind of feels comfortable when you look at it. So as the likeness starts to increase, your familiarity and your emotional response becomes more positive. So like here we have an industrial robot. You don't have a very strong emotional reaction to a robot, like this kind of robot. But as they get more lifelike, you're like, like it's the robot of a girl or something like that. Or and so this one, the red represents like something that is like moving, and the blue represents something that is like static. So here is like a stuffed animal. Yep, like it looks like I know that it's not a bear, but it's like a soft teddy bear, so I'm getting more familiar with it. Then here we have the Uncanny Valley. So as the there's like a point where the human likeness starts to get like a little bit too good, and there's a point there's a dip that like makes us feel unsettled. And so here the examples are corpse and zombie. And actually, so on this particular graphic, they put Uncanny Valley, or sorry, they put Polar Express, kind of actually on the upswing. So this also says prosthetic hand. So like, people, it's, but anyway. And so then like a fully healthy, like normal person then gets 100%. So that's like, so there's a dip there. And part of it with the Polar Express that kind of left it back from fully formed human is it's like the movements are like a little bit too slow. If I were to analyze it like a little bit deeper, the movements are like a little bit too slow and a little bit too intentional. That normally when someone's talking, they have like sort of quicker movements. Like the eyes move around, they might move their head like this, or or like kind of adjust themselves a little bit. There's naturally like with a living person, there's like shorter, faster, just like full body movements. That's like I'll shift my weight from side to side, and if you watch Polar Express with a critical eye, maybe do a little extra credit, and when it's not actual extra credit, but like watch some clips from Polar Express. But that it's like they're sort of like animatronics. It's like if those of you that ever went to like Chuck E. Cheese as a kid, and they had the band that would come out, or there's that game Five Nights at Freddy's where it's like creepy animatronic like robots and stuff that it's like it's like a little bit too herky jerky. And so now what Disney movies now do is they actually pull it back. So like Polar Express was like Disney is Polar Express is a Disney movie, right? But Polar Express like tried to be too realistic. And so now when you watch Pixar movies and Disney movies, they pull it back. The characters are less like humans. So like what's a good example? Pixar Soul was one that came out a couple years ago. So like if you look at the main guy from Soul, this is not the shape of a normal human. Like people don't have like really long skinny heads and like cheeks and chins and like an round tummy and stuff like that. Like that, it's intentionally scaled back. And same with like the emotion, like the animation itself. Things are exaggerated, so it's sort of like really strong emotions and like really dramatic movements and things like that. So being able to create these things as an animator just like takes time and practice. You've probably heard me say that at least 10 times in this class, but that like this is something that you got to do to learn to get better at it. And one of the ways that I encourage people, if you're really interested in 3D animation, take a scene from one of your favorite movies or shows, and just like take the audio straight out of it, and like recreate it with 3D characters. And again, they don't have to be like really detailed, simple characters, but just practice like trying to get the emotion of the scene and like trying to like get the timing right. And it doesn't even have to be like doing their mouths. It can just be like the body language and kind of, things like that. And that way you have a reference to work off of. Like if you're taking a scene from Soul or from Seinfeld or whatever, like you have some reference, and working off of reference is like always recommended for me, for sure. So I just had to look at some Toy Story pictures. One of the things that I really noticed when I went back and watched Toy Story 1 is how much better the lighting was, or how much worse the lighting was. Because they I don't believe they used ray traced lighting in the early 90s. And the place that it stuck out to me the most, and like I feel like if once I point it out to you, you'll maybe you can't not see it, but you could always see the characters' teeth in their mouths. Like no matter what the situation, like if the mouth was open, you could see all of their teeth kind of curved in there. Jump forward to Toy Story 4, and like when their mouths are open, it's just like dark because there's not a lot of light going into the mouth that we can see like the back of everyone's teeth. So that's an observation I had, and so like I thought I saw another one. No, I'm not seeing it. Oh yeah, like here, this one. Like, yeah, his mouth's open, but you don't need to see the teeth. Even when it's like, and yes, you can see some, but anyway, the teeth always stuck out to me. Okay, and so like here's Andy's mom and baby sister in the car, and like, the mom is like, I am a robot driving the car. Like, oh, sit down. So just it's come a long way. Oh yeah, and look, it's a rabbit hole. Look, here's a side by side between Andy from Toy Story 1 and Andy from Toy Story 4. When you look at it side by side, you're like, oh my gosh, it looks so bad. But it was a great movie, and it was way ahead of its time. It was groundbreaking 3D technology, but just like look at the lighting, yeah, and like look at the character model, so much less creepy. Anyway. Okay, and while I'm thinking of animation that I've seen recently, I saw this video. So I don't know who this person is, but somebody shared their animation that they made in Blender. So this was created in Blender. I'm sure there was some post effect done on some of these things, but all the characters and stuff were animated in 3D, and here's the result. It's actually like a super cool 2D animation. So this actually happens a lot in 2D animated things now, is that it's done in 3D, but everything is given sort of like a very flat material, flat shader to make it look like it's done in 2D. And obviously, so like this is a very stylistic animation too. That it's like very much anime, like really high jumps and like kind of quick movements that you're only seeing like a few like parts of the model. That you're like if the head turns, you're not seeing it turn like this. You see like a couple frames here and then a couple frames here. So anyway, this is another thing that I had to share. I thought it was pretty cool. This person is Giwono0708 on Twitter, if you're on that. Yeah, very cool. So if I were to wrap up the last 22 minutes and 44 seconds of rambling, it's that there's no one perfect way to animate. And it's not, the most important thing is not having the most realistic body movements. It's about trying to convey the like emotion and tell a story and like be creative, be original. Oh shoot, and there's one other point. Oh yeah, and it's not about which tool you can use. Blender is a perfectly capable platform to do this and to practice on. And because all of these things just take experience. And I'll repeat what I said a little bit earlier. One great way to kind of practice getting good at those things with characters is by trying to copy a scene or like recreate a scene from a show or a movie that you've seen that you like, and that you can reference and try to kind of recreate. That's a great way to, because for me especially, but I think for a lot of people, it's so hard to just like pull stuff out of thin air to come up with like 100% original ideas. So yeah, work off of something else or work with someone else who is a creator and maybe does something different. Maybe someone who like makes music or is a dancer or I don't know, like whatever. All right, shall we animate some things? Let's do a ball three ways. Delete that. Shift A, a plane. S, scale it up. Shift A, adding a UV sphere. Sure. Okay. GZ, move that up. So and shade smooth. I am extremely aware that physics simulations exist. So real quick, here's your super duper basic physics simulation of a ball bouncing. So physics properties is this one. It's the Earth with the moon rotating around it. Physics properties. On your plane, rename this ground, ground, and sphere is ball 1. On your ground, we want rigid body. So click rigid body. So we're on the physics tab. We want rigid body, and this is going to be change this from active to passive. Don't worry, you don't really need to know this. I'm just like, this is a super duper thing. Rigid body and rigid body active on the ball. So if you go to frame 1 here and press the space bar and you play this, it's a ball hitting the ground. Go back to frame 0 here. If you want, you can up the bounciness of it. Let's see, where would that? No, right here. Surface response. So on the ball. So sorry, we have the ball selected, ball 1. Under collisions, it's the surface response here, and we can up the bounciness like this. And let's see what this does. And maybe we also need to change it on the ground. Let's up the bounciness there. There we go. There's a bouncing ball. Well, it bounced once. Okay, so I know that this is a thing. We're not doing that. Delete. Okay. We turn off rigid body on this. We're done with physics simulations. That's something for next semester. Hey, by the way, go ahead and sign up for 3D animation for the fall. It's a lot of fun. We do some character animating, but we also do some physics simulations. We also do some fluid and smoke simulations. We do motion cap. Lots of fun stuff. Also, sign up for the 3D modeling class. We do lots of modeling, cool things, photorealism, not photorealism. We create a character. You can make a spaceship or a vehicle or whatever. Anyway, there's my plug. Okay. Let's add a ball. Let's add a ball, a UV sphere. Cool. This is ball 1. Great. Shade it smooth. Let's go to orthographic view. Let's make this window a little bit bigger. Frame 1. So our plane is on the red line there because it's on 0. So I'm going to go to GZ, bring this ball up here, and I'm going to turn on auto keying just to make our lives a little bit faster. And also just I'm going to need to add a key at the beginning here. Location, rotation, scale. Sure, we'll do the whole thing. Okay. Let's bounce this ball. GZ. Move it down here to the line till it hits the red line. Auto keying is on, so it moved it there. So where was it before? I should have measured. I should look at my transform properties. I should make it a more even number. Make it 9. 9 there, and then it'll be exactly 1 here because it's hitting right there. And then maybe we make this, like 6. And then here we go. What would this be? This would be 1 again, and then maybe 3. And let's just look at this 1, and then done. Okay, so here's this ball bouncing. Now it looks bad, right? Like if this ball were being bounced from a height, it wouldn't ease in. It doesn't slow down when it hits the ground. It gets faster, in fact. So the graph editor is a great way to kind of add a little bit more life to an animation. So I encourage you, aspiring animators, to look at the graph editor. Now let's think a little bit more critically about what's happening here. So the graph editor is showing us the position. This blue line is showing us the Z location. And so as you can hopefully glean, we need to not have this line be rounded at the bottom, but rather we need it to be sharp, pointy, because we want it to bounce and immediately come back up. Okay, so let me select this one here, and I'm going to hold on the shift key and select this one here, and this one here, just for good measure. And remember, V is the set keyframe handle, and we can change this to vector for now. But then you can go in and adjust these. So actually, let me undo that. So just by changing this to vector, let's see the effect that it's had. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Now, one thing, our keyframes are way too far apart. So one thing I'll do is, or one thing you can do is select all these and just S scale it down. Oh, but that's actually not what I was thinking. Oh, because it's doing the scale too. So let's just take, let's get out of the graph editor. Let's go timeline like this. All these S scale. Oh, and actually this is a hot tip. So if you're in the timeline editor and you're scaling, it does it like the anchor point is where your CTI is. So probably best to go to your first keyframe and scale it down like this. S scale it down so they all get a little closer like that. So now it's like 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 like that. Make it maybe a little shorter. Oops. Yeah, think about where your first keyframe or where your CTI is. Okay, and the other thing too to be aware of here, and I should have mentioned it off the bat, but by default I'm at 24 frames per second here in my scene properties, output properties. So like if you change this to 240, obviously it's going to be a lot faster. Ding ding ding. So just keep that in mind. 30 is fine for me. Okay, so. The other thing, okay, so I'm just kind of thinking critically about how this works. So because the ball isn't traveling as far, it should take less time to bounce up as down on further bounces. So like these ones, we may slide these in just a couple of frames. Ding ding ding, ding 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 ding, 4 there, and then ding ding ding, couple more there, a couple more here, ding 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 ding. Okay. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so it's better, but it's still not like it's not feeling right. If you haven't ever like read or heard anything about the like 12 principles of animation, I encourage you to just internet search that real quick. In fact, why don't I do that? Okay, so my two of my favorites are the first two here listed on Wikipedia, squash and stretch and anticipation. And actually, Wikipedia has gone ahead and blown my cover a little bit, because this is one of the things we're going to do in a little bit is squash and stretch. But right now, I want to talk about anticipation. So how would we create a little bit of an anticipation here with this ball bouncing? We'd probably, I'm spitting in my microphone today. We'd probably have it like hang in the air just a little bit longer, because it feels like it's bouncing up and it's still sort of just like zigzag. And so to have it hang in the air a little bit longer, let's take these keyframes where it's up and just kind of drag out. I realize my mouse is kind of in the way a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my keystroke thing. Okay, sorry if you liked it, but it was bothering me. All right, so I'm grabbing this keyframe here. I'm taking this handle, and you have to be careful because it can, like, the angle can be off a little bit. So if you hold down the shift key, if you hold down the shift key while you're, grab and then hold down shift, it's going to keep it in line there. So if I pull this out, we can see that the curve is becoming a little bit more sharp. And like here, we can even angle this up a little bit. Whoops, I didn't mean to grab that. Whoa, where'd my... All right, so wouldn't you know it, my Blender crashed. So, and I didn't save, so I kind of quickly redid. Don't forget to save. Okay, so I'm dragging this first one out, and then I'm making my handles here a little bit steeper. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna grab this. And actually, I want to have these be like mirrored. Whoa, gosh, clicking like crazy. So I'm going to change the handle type to these to be aligned, right? Does that allow me to do it in both ways? Maybe not. I'll just kind of do it manually like this, just so it's symmetrical. So we're attempting to create anticipation. Oh, actually, you know what? Oh goodness, you guys, this is a problem. Good thing I saved. Okay, so I realized you can also just select a keyframe and S to scale it out like this. That's probably a little easier. S, scale it out. We're creating anticipation. I was probably like pushing too many keys. Can I S scale? No, that doesn't do anything. Bring these handles in a little bit. Bring these handles in a little bit. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Yeah, and this one, it's a little funky at the end. But, you know, you'd probably, if you were wanting to continue this on, you know, you can just move this up a little bit more and just add a few more, like, smaller ones like this. And, you know, get in here and, you know, make sure these ones are, oops, these two keyframes are V vector, and make sure these ones are just like, oops, you can scale it like this, scale this one like this. Just add like a couple more little bumps at the end. Dum, dum. So hanging in the air is creating a little bit of anticipation. And so like now we're in the realm of like, this is less realistic than an actual ball bouncing. It's more stylized, but it's also giving it like a little bit more intrigue, a little bit more interest, a little bit more like style, emotion. It's kind of a zippy ball that has some personality. Zing, boing, boing, boing. Okay, so like the other thing we could do is like when a lot of times, or squash and stretch is the other thing. So like here, what we could do is we could take this and like actually like flatten it a little bit. So like on this frame, maybe we keyframe the that would be the Z scale, and like here, it's the Z scale is like flat like this, and we actually move this down a little bit so that it actually squashes. And then here, like up here, it's actually like kind of skinny like this. And I should have also keyframed my what is it? Yeah, well, for demonstration's sake, we'll just keep it like that. Okay. And then set this back to 1 and kind of do the same thing. So like here, we can make this. Oh, but you know, I'm realizing that I need it to like, you know, right before it hits. So here we keyframe it at 1, then go down a frame, and then we squash it a little bit like that. Bring it down a little bit. And then back here to scale 1. So like it's just kind of boing. Oh yeah, and it didn't quite work there as well because I want it to be. But anyway, you kind of get the idea that it's like when it hits, it kind of flattens a little bit. And that also just gives a little bit more personality. And also like maybe kind of gives it a sense of its weight, that it's not like super heavy, that if it's so kind of squishy like that, it you know, it gives a different impression of its weight, whether or not it's like heavy or light or whatever. Boing. And so like maybe if you were really trying to be a pro at this, you'd maybe like, oh yeah, that's right, we need to squash this way a little bit. You could probably like scale this down. Yeah, but I don't want to add too many keyframes. But and like kind of give it like a little like a wobble, like a. So, oftentimes I describe actions as sounds, and of course that translates. If I go shoing, that's clear what I mean, right? Okay, so I was thinking I might originally kind of do a different kind of animation, like maybe I'd have them do a flip or something like that, but that would take too much time, and I've tried hard to not necessarily make these lectures be like tutorials, like to have you just like, okay, step 1, like select the leg and move the foot and do whatever, because I want you to be able to just kind of like do it on your own a little bit and play with it. So I don't want to go through a whole new example, but looking at, and luckily I saved this, but like looking at the Chester walking here, you know, it's very robotic. A, because I did it very quickly, and like doing these kinds of things and these kinds of tweaks takes time for sure. But if we were to kind of take this a little bit further, like what are some things that you could do to kind of add a little bit of like attitude or personality or something like that. So like for starters, like how do people show like a little like attitude or like strutting when they're walking? Like, you know, maybe kind of like the shoulders are moving and kind of the head sliding a little bit, like it's, you know, things like that. So I encourage you, if with your character animation assignment 6, that you may be using this character for, like what if you're just doing a walk cycle or something super basic, that's totally fine. But I encourage you to step out of the box a little bit, or like step out of your comfort zone and think of some things you can add to it to just like give it a little spice, like a little personality. Because that's the thing that's going to make you a great animator. So like, for example, you know, there's some cool, and with this Rigify rig, there's some very easy handles you can play with. So like shoulders, maybe like shoulders rotate one way, like, whoa, Chester, rotate the shoulders a little bit like this. And then like here on the other side, so let's copy that and let's like Control Shift V, paste inverse. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and then I gotta also paste the inverse here too. Or no, just paste like that. Oh yeah, and actually also I need to like speed this up a little bit. So I'm gonna A to select all the keyframes, put my cursor or CTI on frame 1, and I'm gonna S scale this down. Because now that I kind of have the timing right, I can scale this down and speed it up a little bit. Again, if I was going for like realism, you know, I'd probably spend a little bit more time trying to be like careful with, you know, some of the timing of things, like, because he's definitely like pausing at every step, like hata, hata. Whereas like in reality, when you're walking, like it's a fluid motion. But anyway, I'm not gonna worry about that. What else could we do? Like, and like have fun with it. Like just play, because now the idea that popped into my head is like, rather than just like stepping forward, why don't we just have him try to do like a karate kick when he steps forward. So like here he's gonna go like this, is gonna slide forward a little bit, but he's gonna go, let's do a side view, and he's gonna go, yeah, and then I'm gonna move forward just a little frame and rotate the heel like this. Yeah. Like imagine seeing somebody walk like that. So again, like it's a ridiculous example, but it's sort of like, you know, what can you do to like make it fun or whatever. It's not always about like just trying to like get it perfect. I heard somebody say recently that you know, a lot of people go through life and it's sort of like everything is performance. And like you're always trying to like do it the correct way, as if it was like this was when you need to perform your thing and you got to try to get it right. And there's less practice in people's lives, that like you should treat more of your life as practice and less performance. There's my bit of wisdom that I stole from somebody else for the day. Okay, let me just think of one other thing. So like another thing that we could do to add like a little bit of personality is he's just gonna nod his head like this. Gestures, like he's moving his shoulders, but he's also like kind of bobbing his head. Maybe he's dancing. So maybe do like double time, like nod, 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 nod. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to select all to kind of get my bearings here. Okay, head. So we're going to like frame 48, 49 or something like that. Okay, so here. So let's just kind of, let me get my side view going. Just kind of move it a little bit like this. Okay. and then down, and like maybe forward a little bit, and then back here. Copy paste. And actually, the cool thing. Oh no. Okay. So you can delete keyframes like this. And so because we have things set to loop, you don't have to like do it over and over again, especially since it's a repeating thing like this. So we can even just like make this S scale down. So he's like, yeah. I'm walking and I'm kicking. Yeah. So just like have fun with it, play with it. Don't take it too seriously. It's practice. Yeah. And who knows? Like this might be the next big meme, you know, that you're making right now. Okay. That wraps it up for week 14. So please finish up your animation assignment 6. I said 10 seconds, so you know, if you need to like loop it a couple times, that's fine to get to 10 seconds, whatever. And I would like to see a video file in addition to your Blender file. Also, when we Zoom next week, which will be April 20th, I'd like to hear what ideas you have for your final project, because that's after this we're just working on your final project, which will be due at the end of the semester. Man, so today it was like 85 degrees out, and like we had to turn the air conditioning on, and I'm pretty sure the last time I recorded a lecture 2 weeks ago we had just gotten like 8 inches of snow. So it's crazy. Please email if you have questions or doubts or want to show me your animation or just anything at all. I'm looking forward to seeing your animations. Have fun with it, and we'll see you next time. Toodaloo.